Okay, the City of Marine City Commission meeting is called to order on Thursday, March 2nd, 2023 at 7 o'clock. Now can we have a moment of silence to send our positive thoughts and prayers to those in our community that need our support. And now please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. And can I have roll call?
Commissioner Bryson.
Here.
Commissioner Hendrick.
Here.
Commissioner Hillfrank.
Here.
Commissioner Clausen.
Here.
Commissioner Roerig.
Here.
Commissioner Ross.
Here.
Mayor Vandenbosch.
Here.
Interim City Manager Heslop.
Here.
And City Attorney Robert Davis.
Present.
Okay, moving on to item 4 for approving the agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as amended, 2/28/2023.
Support.
Okay, I have a motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Now we're on to public comment. Anyone is welcome to address the City Commission. Please state your name and limit your comments to 5 minutes. The Commission will not respond, but we will follow up as necessary.
My name is Laura Merchant, and I'd like to raise 3 issues to Mayor Vandenbosch and the Commission. Number 1, Commissioner Hillfrank was arrested on February 10th, 2023 at about 9:30 in the evening. The allegations involve domestic violence, including assault and battery. The arrest documents have been made public along with the body cam video. I urge each commissioner to review these documents and the video. Commissioner Bryson, I am sure that if these documents related to you, Commissioner Hillfrank would have had them posted on his Facebook page within seconds. Number 2, during the arrest, it is clear that Commissioner Hillfrank dialed our police chief directly. Again, it was well past 9:30 p.m. on a Saturday night. This raises the question of what was the purpose of that telephone call and what result was Commissioner Hillfrank looking for when he made that telephone call. Mayor, I would ask that the telephone call be investigated further and that the public be advised on the results. The phone call seems inappropriate to me. Number 3, during Commissioner privilege and in open session, Commissioner Hillfrank said that the incident was an unlawful arrest. That is a serious allegation by a commissioner against the police department of the city. I am not an expert, but the arrest documents released to the public do not show an unlawful arrest. I would ask that Commissioner Hillfrank's accusation be investigated and that the public be advised on the results. A sitting city commissioner accusing our city police department of unlawful actions at a public meeting seems to be inappropriate to me.
Anyone else? No.
I tried my best, and my wife did too, to send these to you by email. One of the claims of Mike has been that these dispensaries are not geared towards children. I would beg to differ. There's one example. There's another. How about Airheads that are so popular? How about Airheads with a Z? You think young kids are going to see the difference in that? How about hot tamales? and tamales packaged the same way with marijuana in them. How about Girl Scout Thin Mints? Everybody knows about Thin Mint cookies, right? Well, they have Thin Mint Punch to go with it. That's laced with marijuana. Pass those down, if you will, please. Here's another thing. Pass these down.
Yes, sir.
I'll wait until everyone gets a copy here. Hopefully it won't take up my 5 minutes here. This is inside of one of the dispensaries down here. You invited me, Mike, to make myself really familiar with what's going on here, so I made sure I did that. You'll notice here on the left-hand side, there is what's called White Boy Rick, a brand with a mission, it says. This is who White Boy Rick is, people. A notorious drug dealer who lived in Detroit. He spent a long time in prison for illegal drug deals and dealing crimes. So let's make a hero out of him and confuse our children so that they don't know what a hero really is. Church brand cannabis products, take a look at that on there, are specifically designed to mock the Christian church and Christians. This is blasphemy against the triune God. Notice baptism by fire mocks holy baptism instituted by Jesus Christ himself. The Holy Grail mocks the Lord's Supper, Holy Communion, instituted by Jesus Christ for the benefit of believers in him so that they can receive the benefits of his body and blood shed on the cross of Calvary for our sins. People, none of this is by mistake. If our state were being led by conservatives rather than liberal, deep state criminals who are in China's pocket, by the way, and I know that for a fact or I wouldn't say it, we wouldn't even be having these marijuana discussions. They didn't push for the legislation of marijuana in Michigan for the benefit of anyone like those who smoke it want to believe. It was done so that they could pad their own pockets and cause chaos and cause confusion to cover up their own crimes, people. That's what it's all about. That's actual honest to gosh truth. So help me God. And then I'm going to give a prayer tonight for the benefit of all of us here. If you want to bow your heads, you can do that. If you don't want to do that, that's up to you. Lord God Almighty, we give you all the praise. You are the one and only true God, omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. You created many things for our good. One young woman who claimed to be a Christian said, "You and not the devil created cannabis." This is true, but only to be used as medicine, not to get high and cloud their minds. That is of the devil, so that they can't see God. As Jesus states in Genesis, the devil is the prince of all lies. I pray for an extra measure of the Holy Spirit here tonight. Touch the souls of the members of this board and help them to see your truth. Help them to see that their decisions have an eternal effect on their souls and the souls of the people that they serve. Jesus states this in his own words in Matthew 6:24. He says, "No one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and he will despise the other." See, you cannot serve both God and money, evil, or marijuana. Jesus states several times in the Bible, the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. I'm sorry, people, this isn't possible if you're high. In Jesus' precious name, amen. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Good evening, Madam Commissioner. Madam Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you so much for giving me my 5 minutes. I want to talk about a few things. We have a city right now that has an interim city manager, interim clerk. DPW director who's leaving soon, a police chief who's doing dual duties in the town. We have a lot of issues in this city to deal with. I don't understand why we keep coming up here all the time dealing with this issue. We had an ordinance 2 years ago that was passed. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is just pass on this thing. If they want to go out and get their signatures and put it on the ballot, good. We'll have good old democracy. We'll get our troops out there. If they're so sure it's going to happen, why hasn't it happened in 2 years? Why isn't it happening in St. Clair and Algonac and everywhere else? I think they're bluffing, but if not, if we're going to go to a vote, that's fine. We have important issues in this city to deal with right now. We don't need to be dealing with this issue at every meeting. So I hope we're going to put it to bed tonight. You don't have to do anything. All you just have to do is move on to real city business. The town hall, it's not a town hall. If you have one guy speaking for 15 minutes on the pro position and then you give other people 3 minutes to talk, that's not a town hall. I don't know what you call it. I guess it's some kind of meeting or whatever. I don't think it was done correctly. I think we should have had 2 positions. We could have had somebody to balance him. I'd volunteer to do that. I had 30 minutes of material easily to present, and I didn't have the time in 3 minutes to do that. That's not a town hall. So if you're going to set up another one, look up town halls. Find out what they're supposed to be. It's not that. I also want to talk about PTSD. We had a Navy veteran. I'm a proud Navy veteran, 25 years, Vietnam combat veteran. I served 5 years active, the rest at Selfridge. Also, as a retired police chief, I dealt with PTSD with officers under my command. I also was shot in the line of duty and had issues and was put back on the road when I was a young police officer. I understand about PTSD. We're not talking about taking marijuana from any adult who wants to smoke it. We had medical marijuana, now it's legal marijuana. Nobody's coming here and saying, well, you're not going to be able to have marijuana in the city. You can call, get it delivered to your house. You can drive 10 to 15 minutes and get the marijuana if you want. That's not a problem. I also want to talk a little bit about marijuana as a gateway drug. As a substance abuse counselor in the Navy, as a narcotics detective, DARE officer, I taught for 8 years under the sheriff's office here in St. Clair County, and I can tell you, it's a gateway drug. I dealt with it in narcotics. I dealt with it in the court. Most of those people who had serious drug problems, they started smoking pot. It's a gateway drug. You're going to bring a pot, bake store, candy store in this town, and you're going to have a chance of kids getting their hands on that. When a toddler goes up to River District Hospital and has an overdose, you guys as commissioners will be responsible if you okay this pot store to come into town. If you have an intoxicated driver driving from the pot store and he runs over somebody, he has a head-on collision, you are going to be responsible if you authorize this. One of the things that police officers have to do, unfortunately, and I've had to do it, you have to give death notifications to people. When you go and talk to a parent and say that their kid was killed by an intoxicated driver, or you have to go talk to a family and say that their kid died of a fentanyl overdose, then you really hits home when you understand it. I get the idea. We're never going to be drug-proof 100%. No community is. But we're sending the wrong message by going over and over about this with this pot candy store that we don't need in town. Again, to reinforce what I'm telling you, we're not here to talk about adults and smoking legal weed and whatever they want to do. What we don't want is we don't want to send a message to our kids. We don't want to have edibles in our high school that have no way of being controlled and all the issues that go along with that. We don't need it. We need to put a stop to it tonight. There should be a motion to either reinforce the ordinance we had 2 years ago or just move on and put this thing to rest. Again, I'm reaching out to you guys. You're responsible. You protect the most innocent people in this town, and that's the kids. And it's a real simple thing. You don't have to do anything. And it's real simple. If they want to go out and get their votes and get their signatures and put it on the ballot, we'll rally the troops, and I guarantee it'll go down. It's not going to pass. So call their bluff. Do whatever you're going to do. Please look out for our kids and say no or just don't do anything. Thank you so much for your attention this evening. Thank you.
My name's Dan Levere. I'm a resident of Marine City. Have been for about 50 years or so now. And I'd like to thank you for your efforts and your help of this commission or this community by serving on this commission. And I'm going to ask something as we go on in a few moments that I'm going to ask you to do regarding the sale and the promulgation of marijuana as a recreational drug and a edible. Now, we have in this country right now something on the order of about a large commercial airplane crashing every day due to the poison being poured into our communities of fentanyl. This will not stop, and by the way, it isn't sold as fentanyl. Somebody goes on the internet and buys a Percocet pill, whatever. That's how it comes into the community, and that's how these people poison themselves. And they're usually kids because they don't have enough sense to know better, and they haven't matured yet. Now, don't doubt for 1 minute that you're not going to have brownies marketed to your children as marijuana that are laced with fentanyl, because that's the next way. And like the Reverend showed you, it can be very nicely done. And it can be professionally done these days because you have an entire cartel selling it. So that's one of the problems you might have. Now, we did pass in Michigan the right to have marijuana as a recreational drug. But you notice there's no Department of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and marijuana. Marijuana just is in no man's land. Doesn't fall under the FDA. No need to put a label like you'd see on a can of beans. You just help yourself. And you mix it however you like, and you sell it. But this is what we're going to be up against. The laws haven't gelled yet to regulate this product. And until and unless they do, you really don't want to have it become marketed in our community. That's my concern. We don't have the wherewithal to control this stuff, and it should be, if I had my way, it would be prescribed by a doctor. It would be prescribed for particular conditions. The doctor would be monitored. If he wrote excessive amounts of that particular prescription, he would be looked into by the FDA, as was done with OxyContin. These are all things that haven't evolved yet. And until and unless they do, we're going to have and then the marketing of products that appeal to children, and even indirectly, without the word "this is for kids" on it. It just happens to have the picture that they see on their, on their their Girl Scout cookies or whatever. That's not acceptable yet. That's not controlled. So let's wait. And by the way, this is the offer I'm going to make you today. Now, there's an awful lot of commissions, and I hope you don't all want a book. But before you make a decision on anything like this, I will purchase, I'll say 4 books by somebody like Bill Bennett, who was the czar on drugs, and spend the time. I know it's a lot to ask, to read that book, read a book of somebody who is a proponent to it, because you got a lot of money here that'll try to convince you otherwise. And that somebody's the royalties on a book of an obscure book isn't going to be, isn't going to entice anybody to spend the time to write a book. So that's my offer to you, and I'll buy those books and I'll have them here to the next commission, and I'm going to ask you to read them before you would ever consider legalizing the product to be sold here in East China. And keep in mind, the first child that dies because he eats an imitation of something that was marketed as marijuana, you may feel bad about it. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Catherine Warner, Marine City. My husband and I purchased our home in Marine City in 2019, moved in 2020. Finding a Facebook page titled Marine City, Michigan, I thought it would be able to find great information about Marine City and events going on in town. But the page is misleading at best and does little to promote our city. It seems simply to serve as an echo chamber for its administrators, one of whom is Commissioner Hilfrink, who posts opinions. Some present as facts against people with whom they disagree or apparently who are successful. A lot of the comments on the page repeating the scorn are from people who are not residents of our business or business owners of city. Examples of the divisiveness on Facebook page from the past couple years include calling the then mayor a terrible person who looks out for herself and her rich friends, claiming the then mayor illegally hired city manager Holly Tapman, disparaging the Vertons as filthy rich and therefore terrible people, vilifying the Vertons for buying up all the property in Marine City, criticizing the owners of the Mariner, claiming they have lots of money, using personal attacks against people, including those in the religious community who are concerned about children in our community. And there have been many outright lies. The administrators of the Marine City, Michigan page allow these type of unsupported criticism and unsubstantiated claims to be made, at least against those they don't care for. This needs to stop. I would ask the commission to adopt a resolution and add language to the Reformed City Charter prohibiting commission members from representing or giving an appearance of representing City of Marine City on any social media, including Facebook. Commissioner Hilfrink obviously has the right to post whatever he wants on his Facebook page, but he should not have the right to name a page Marine City, Michigan, as though it were an official city page. This is his personal page, and it's clear he has used it to advance things that are beneficial to him, including his election to the commission for the purpose of promoting pot shops in Marine City. He also uses it as a platform for attacking those opposing such facilities and disparaging people he disagrees with. This should not be allowed. It's interesting that the Commissioner Hilfrink ran for this office on a platform of transparency, yet his Facebook page doesn't bear his name. He also voted to fire the city manager, Ms. Tapman, for a reason that lacked specificity. How is that transparent? This Facebook page, and by affiliation, this commissioner have added along with the marijuana use to divide that's opening among our residents in our city. I think it's time to put an end to this divisiveness. I notice under unfinished business, recreational marijuana facility, further discussion is needed if Mike Hilfrink is to bring out his experts. That's it. But if there's going to be a debate regarding the pros and cons of a marijuana facility within Marine City residents and Marine City businesses need to participate.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Cheryl Verkaman. The public has the right to know the truth. City Manager Holly Tapman was unjustly terminated without an evaluation, no written or verbal warnings, absolutely nothing on her record. City Clerk Shannon Adams resigned and walked out of the last City Commission meeting because she was relentlessly hounded about taking meeting minutes which she was trained on by Commissioner Hendricks. Anne Marie Singer, our administrative clerk, just put in her notice to resign. We just had a major developer back out of a project that would have brought about 200 much-needed apartments to the south end of our city. Why did they back out? That would have meant a great deal of revenue for the city with taxes, water, and sewer. You wonder if these developers watch these city commission meetings and see what goes on. Ladies and gentlemen, who's running the city? More importantly, how much is this fallout for this planned attack and termination on our previous city manager costing the taxpayers? Who was following up on all the projects that our previous city manager was doing? These are not rhetorical questions. We, as taxpayers, have a right to know. Who was corresponding with the DNR to get the city's $272,000 back that was pulled from the general fund? We have outstanding money owed to the city from PCE for the TAP grant. Who's handling this? Who is working on the Ralph C. Wilson grant, which was close to $500,000? Who is doing the follow-up with the RFPs for the master plan and the interviews with the Planning Commission that were set up months ago? Who is working on the Cotterville sewer agreement? We are paying a ridiculous amount of money in duplicate salaries and wages because of the personal vendetta against Holly Tapman from a few people sitting on this commission. We as taxpayers have a right to know how much money is bleeding from the budget to pay these additional salaries. Hiring decisions are being made in an instant. I sat on this commission for 5 years, and we never hired someone without first forming a hiring committee, seeing resumes, doing multi-level background checks, and conducting thorough interview processes. Ladies and gentlemen, we just hired an interim city manager that miraculously came to the mayor without so much as a few sentence general conversations, and the board approved them. This person will have full access to all the city's documents and financials, and nothing was asked. Nobody said, I need to see his resume. Nobody said, we need to have a better interview process. Commissioner Hendricks never allowed this before, so why now? How many promises were made for votes?
Anyone else?
My name is Laura Biskner. I'm a Marine City resident, born and raised. I see two people on this whole commission and this whole that are native to the town. Now, anybody, we need infrastructure. We need the money for infrastructure. And anybody that went to school in this town and goes to school now knows you don't get pills and stuff from a dispensary. You don't get that. You get that from high schools. And that's where you have to look at all this drug stuff you guys are talking about. A dispensary, everything's hermetically sealed. There's guards outside. They check your ID. Come on. We need the money in Marine City. This is good. God is good. But come on, everybody knows you get drugs from high school, and Holy Cross is the best. That's it.
My name is Sarah Polio. I'm here on a much lighter topic. I did not see the agenda, but it was supposed to be on there for the permit for the Finsterwald Arts and Crafts Fair. So I just wanted to kind of talk about it. Kristen Harvey Finsterwald did the Arts and Crafts Fair for 25 plus years. And in the early 2000s, I helped Chris do it. When Harvey got sick, she asked me to come in and help and eventually take it over. And so when things were up in the air with Maritime Days last fall, I approached Friends of City Hall to sponsor the Arts and Crafts Fair because I just want to make sure that it goes on, that it happens every year, because this is what Chris really wanted. It was her baby. And so I hope that you'll give us the permit and that everyone will come to the Arts and Crafts Fair and support it. I have heard that Maritime Days, that there's a new group that's going to try to get it back going, and that would be awesome. It'll be the same weekend, so I hope that happens also. That's it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else? All right, moving on to item 6, approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the City Commission meeting minutes of February 16th, 2023?
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support, any discussion?
Yeah, on page 2, first paragraph, it was minutes to approve were incorrect as the audit portion was not detailed. I think just state in the minutes that they were incorrect. You'd state that the commissioner felt they were incorrect. I'd personally like it to read something more like, Commissioner felt minutes to approve were incorrect as the audit portion was not detailed. But I feel it's a little strong to indicate specifically that the minutes were not correct. That would be my amendment. And then the only other question I had was just on public comment, if there was any plans for follow-up of the questions that were asked. That is all.
Any other discussion?
Did you get support for that amendment?
I guess, yeah, no, but would anybody care to support amending them in that way? Only the one part. The other is just me asking a question regarding the questions.
The only thing I'll say is, it didn't necessarily say they were incorrect. There wasn't enough information, is what.
Yeah, but the minutes
I will-
read incorrect.
Yeah,
Not sufficient.
correct. That's a better
Insufficient.
word. Insufficient.
Felt were insufficient would be fine.
Yeah, that would be
But-
fine.
Since we'd agreed that, you had to come with an absolute recommendation, that was just one that I was proposing.
I'll amend my motion for that.
Okay, motion.
Does the second accept that?
I think it was
Second.
Bill.
Yeah, second. Support.
Amended motion and support. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Item 7, we have the consent agenda. Obtains a special event permit from Friends of City Hall for Finsterwald Arts and Crafts Fair, and a special event permit, the Friends of City Hall for bandstand dedication ceremony. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda, items A and B.
Support.
Okay, motion and support. Any discussion?
So just for those who don't know, when the consent agenda is suggested and if it is approved, that's it. It has been approved. So we don't necessarily need discussion into it.
We're not allowed to discuss.
Correct. We've consented,
Yes.
unless we remove it from the consent agenda.
Yeah. But it's approved.
All right, can I hear a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Bryson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick?
Yep.
Commissioner Hillfrank?
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen?
Yes.
Commissioner Rohrig?
Yes.
Commissioner Ross?
Yes.
Mayor Vandembosch?
Yes.
Carries.
Okay, we have item 8, financial business. A, expenditures including payroll in the amount of $455,575.36. And can I have a motion to approve the expenditures including payroll in the amount of $455,575.36?
Moved and stated.
Support.
Okay, motion, support, and discussion. Any?
These looked very good. I just was going to say, I always hole punch mine, and for whatever reason, some were like turned backwards. No criticism, just, I don't know if it printed funny or what, but that's all. Sorry.
Okay, can I have roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Hendrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Hilfrank,
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Rohrig,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Mayor Vandenbosch,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and the preliminary financial statements. Can I have a motion to receive and file the preliminary financial statements?
So moved. Support.
Okay, motion support, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Unfinished business, 9A, social district update discussion.
Jim, as the interim city manager, is still working on the map and is working with some others in the community to get the two sponsoring initial establishments that would be on, to support the initial social district. Jim and I have met on this, and we need to hear from you tonight. We need to hear your ideas of the district. We've had this on the agenda a couple of times, and we have yet to hear what the commissioners believe the district should be. And we need to hear that tonight so we can get this finalized. I can't do it without the district being defined.
Have you reached out to business owners?
Not yet. No, Laura said that she was gonna get the chamber involved. Done a breakdown of communication with that one. I have not reached out to any of the businesses. I've been swamped. I apologize for that. My intention though, so we can get this moving forward to get those letters.
But reaching out to the business owners is important, but we need to know the district so we know which ones to reach out to.
Previous meeting, we had talked about Water Street and over to Broadway.
Okay.
Is that what you were,
Yeah, I
want
need,
that defined?
we need that defined. Where's it gonna start, where's it gonna end, and where would the signage and the area where people can gather and walk around?
Okay. Is that something that we would potentially kick to the planning commission in terms of, no, so we would need to come up with it and, I mean, yeah, I guess without a proposal necessarily, that's a little bit difficult, but that's fine. Previously discussed in a meeting was utilizing the same boundaries that had been outlined in the ordinance that we're trying to sunset, right? And that
The same area that you had
Correct.
the moratorium.
That did,
Right.
yeah, the one that we're trying to put a moratorium on, right. There was language in that did describe certain things, and specifically at the request of Bill omitted the beach.
Right, we have that.
And, okay, so we do have that, and that is not descriptive enough. We need to go outside of that or lay a particular boundary.
This is not a meets and bounds thing.
Okay.
I just need, this street heading whatever direction to this street, and then drawn on a map.
Okay,
We have to submit an outline on a map.
I would just say Water Street and then Broadway just past the Newport pub there.
And end it, have that be the total district, including the community area and whatnot. I think that's, with the exclusion, you want that beach, obviously.
Yeah.
right, the beach
Yeah,
to
beach
be
excluded.
It would stop at Broadway.
Yeah, so that would do that.
So
Yeah.
north side of Broadway would be excluded, but south side of Broadway would be included.
You got it?
The north side of Broadway would be excluded, yes.
That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
would start on the south side. What about, so what's your take then on the Broadway parking lot? The dead end of Broadway there at Water Street, that parking lot, and then that park there just to the south?
Certainly the park to the south, I think, would be within.
Yep.
That would be a natural flow, wouldn't it?
Right,
That part.
and then from there south, other than private property, obviously.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Any park then to the south of that, and then what, ending at Bridge Street?
Yeah.
Yes.
South side of Bridge Street, it's church, probably don't want people.
We could probably keep that on the north side of Bridge Street.
Right.
Right there, the south side of the hotel, but the north side of Bridge Street.
Yeah.
That way you stay away from that entire block by the Catholic Church.
And then western bounds on that side would be what, Marine Street? The little one that tucks up? Well, and,
Yeah, that might go too far, my opinion.
and then what about anything across from Chartier?
I think it's too far down. I think it's just gotta stay more localized. If you take that all the way down to Chartier, that's too much.
Are we gonna have to change the amendment to a ordinance?
Yes.
That you can't have liquor in a park?
Yes, we have to do that at the same
You'd have to
time.
get rid of, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna bring that. And it includes parking lots, too.
So,
But
Brian, if everyone's on board with what
Well-
Brian is,
I got a lot of questions, though, on this.
okay, I'm just saying, Brian, can you somehow type that out and send it to Jim?
Sure, can I send it to the entire commission just so that?
Yeah,
they
and
could-
yes, all of us, that'd be great.
All of us, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
All right. So I was doing some research on this, and, yeah, we'd have to fix our parks ordinance. And I'm concerned, too, about the park where they play volleyball.
The Edison Park there,
Yeah, because that's
Yeah.
kids all day long, all
that
summer
out.
long.
we can just exclude that,
That would be another one
yeah.
not to do.
That's really hard for people just to like, oh, this park we can't do, we gotta
I know.
walk around it.
Well, but
Well-
Mike, you're raising a good point, because
Yes.
the signage price goes up, because you have to clearly define these, and, you know, stop here,
Yes.
start here,
Wow, okay.
you know what I'm saying? You're
I
raising,
agree with you, Lisa, it's just, it's gonna be difficult to enforce, and I know there's gonna be a lot of people that aren't gonna see the sign.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of, what I pulled one out of Oscoda. There's a few of the bigger communities that have them.
Mhm.
So I started pulling them out just to see kind of what types of things they had. So I guess one of the things I would want to know for the business owners, and I think that's why they're asking how they feel, I saw that there was a $70 inspection fee that goes to the liquor control just to inspect their premises, if, like an application fee.
Right.
Then they have to pay a $250 fee annually for that permit.
Yep.
So that's extra cost. Then I don't know if we have an application, are we charging anything for that?
We probably would,
Okay.
right?
So that's a lot of extra cost that I think the business owners that want to participate in that need to know that's going to affect them. It's not just, well, you get an application, you put it in, and you get to have your say. So other things they did, I saw that they had DDAs were paying for, some of them put in a budget in their DDAs for paying for this, because the other things were, I know this plan has to go to the liquor control. Some of them put dates, May 1st through October 31st. They did, they used the financing of the district and that through the cups and the stickers. That was another thing they used. Then you have signage. Then it says in here about having picnic tables, chairs, trash cans, more portable restrooms. All that's in there that, and the other one is, even Port Huron had extra security and police because of trying to enforce it. So all those are extra costs to the city. I'm just trying to bring them up so that everybody knows that it's not just, you know, we make this social district and boom, there we go. There's the one in Oscoda, they have a lot of issues in there. So the other thing too is, I know Port Huron got into it. If you buy in one establishment, you cannot take that drink to another establishment.
Correct.
I know most of our businesses downtown already have outside spaces where they can drink already. So then I'm kind of wondering, do we really need the extra? Because basically, the only thing you're doing is taking them from the one, oh, and they said to not include your street. That was another thing. So it's all these little things I started thinking of and writing down. Then, so the only thing we're doing basically is allowing people to go in our parks and drink. I mean, that's pretty much what we're doing.
Yeah, you're reading Oscoda, you could read a lot of them.
Yeah.
And you're gonna find little nuances, like what you're saying, in Oxford, we had the DDA sponsor the whole thing.
Yeah.
And take it out of their budget and paid for those costs that you're talking about, so we had them sponsor the social district. Some people do that, I think Lake Orion is doing that.
Okay.
The village of Lake Orion. So you're gonna find all these nuances, but it's yours to craft. it starts with defining the turf. Then we move to the rules. What do you want to happen within that turf? What do you not want to happen in that turf? Do you want to set time limits? Do you want to set other parameters like you're reading?
Yeah.
You know, are we gonna purchase extra outdoor seating so that, you know, if you're walking around and you're drinking, you can stop and sit down? You know, do you want to purchase some of those?
Yeah.
Those are all we start with the turf to get the ball rolling.
How is the liability dealt with?
It's, there's no additional liability imposed on the community. It still runs, that's one of the purposes of the logos, is to know where the drinks are originating from. So you still have the same dram shop liability on the establishment.
So, but somebody could take a cup and it could have.
I know,
you
I know, we
mean,
talk,
that's the
everybody
biggest-
talks about it. You know what? You can't police all of
I
that.
understand that, but.
Yeah.
This was just an idea, Commissioner Hendrick, you know, when
Yeah.
we talked about, when Commissioner Ross had brought up the open intox moratorium. It was so confusing to some of the
Yeah.
businesses that this was just an idea that, hey, let's clean up the language of it. You know what, let's just have a social district.
Yeah.
If you choose not to do a social district, I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
But in that case, then we need to clean up the language of the open intox clause. Something has to happen here, because it's very confusing for our visitors. And look, by all means, as a representative of the police department, we want people to come in. And if they want to crack some alcohol and have a good time, hey, we welcome that, as long as they're behaved, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just that language is very confusing and needs to be cleaned up. This, to me, and to city attorney, was probably the easiest way to clean that up, is just introduce this social district. But it's up, you know, up to you guys to.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, what I'm trying to figure out is, if we put all these rules in there and then we do all this work and we go out there and then we talk to some of the business and they go, oh, well, that's too much, and then nobody wants it. You know, I mean.
Possible.
I guess that's another issue, because like I said, all of them pretty much have put in, outside areas for drinking and having fun. So I didn't know how many people really would take advantage. Now, I know when we have festivals and that, we always had a special events permit where they had to get their own liquor license and they had to do that. So if somebody did have an event, then they wouldn't have to do that any longer?
No, probably not.
But they would have to buy their liquor from one of the
Right.
establishments
Right.
if they wanted it.
If they're
So
bringing
they
their
couldn't
own
bring
in.
their own in
Right.
if they were in a park.
Well, and when they did that too, you were relegated to this little fenced-in area
Yes.
to
Yeah.
imbibe,
Yeah, you
right?
couldn't leave, you
So-
couldn't go outside.
Correct.
Exactly.
So would that, if somebody did have a, you know, like the Battle of the Bands, is that still gonna be,
I don't think that person who's selling that drink is gonna be part of the logo and part of the,
okay, so then would they still have to get their own events permit?
yep.
Okay, so those are the
Yeah.
types of things I wanna, just make sure everybody understands going
Yeah.
forward.
And that's, you know, Jim has been, you know, talking about the district lines, and I think Mike had some comments, and Brian has now laid it out. I think we form the district, we start looking around and give you some ideas on some of the rules that we think should be within the district. We can further break down the costs for you, and then we have to go to a couple of establishments to see where's the level of interest.
Okay. Well, those were all my questions. I mean, there's a ton of information out there.
Will we have to put signs on all the private?
You kind of have to put signs where it begins and ends.
Well, here's a question. Okay, so if I go get a drink at one of the establishments and then I want to go into a place that, like the marketplace, and I want to go in there, allowed or not allowed, or does that have to be posted no alcohol allowed because it's not necessarily an alcohol place?
That would have to be a posting issue,
Okay.
unless you wanted to allow it, if it's in the district.
That's the thing that we got to make sure that,
Yeah, these are all the rules that come on your resolution.
because I don't want a business to get upset if somebody comes in with their drink and then slops it all over their stuff.
But it's
I mean,
also their right though then to sit there and say,
No
no,
food and
no
drink.
drinks allowed.
They can
Yes.
always say no food or drink,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
But we just got to make sure that everybody, liquor or not, understands, you know, how this is going to pan out, so that, and how it affects them. That's all.
But again, what you need tonight is
Just
the
the,
area,
We need to start,
the geography.
right,
Geography to contact the businesses.
lines
to
on a
start
map,
getting interest.
and then go to the businesses
Right.
and start developing the list of rules for you to pick from.
I will submit that to everybody in this row,
Okay?
probably later tonight, maybe tomorrow.
Whoa.
Good.
Lisa, those costs you were talking about, is that every business in the district, or is that just the sponsors?
I think just the sponsors, the ones
Sponsors.
that have to get their permits from the liquor control.
Okay, so just two.
And Mike,
Yeah.
normally there's, somehow the community usually offsets those.
Okay. And have we narrowed down who the sponsors are going to be? No, not yet.
I know one gentleman who was pushing for this, I'll say his name was Corey from the Cords Bar. He had approached me
Okay.
last summer, and he was very confused by the open intox ordinance, what he can and can't sell, et cetera. And he was the one actually that wanted this social district. So I'm assuming if I went to Corey and said,
Yeah.
hey, I don't think Corey would have a problem with that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but
Yeah.
I mean, I've known Corey for a long time.
All right, Brian, we'll get your information on the snow day.
Yes.
Thank you, Brian. All right. We'll move on to 9B, recreational marijuana facility discussion and potential action. And I think city attorney had wanted to talk on that.
Yeah, I do. Mayor, is it all right if I speak from the podium?
Yes.
I gave you all a memo dated February 23rd of 2023, which was an outgrowth of the last meeting that we had on the issue. At the beginning, without all of the language, I recapped where we stand. We currently, and for the public, we are out on medical marijuana facilities. As it stands, we are out on recreational use facilities by way of an ordinance from 2019. I then went on to tell you what types of recreational facilities the law now allows for and what kind of ordinances the laws allow for. And then on page 4, I wanted to outline for you the ballot initiative schedule. Obviously, your next election date is May 2nd of 2023, but the petitions to place anything on that had to be filed by January 24th. So I think your May election is behind us at this point. The next election after that is August 8th. Petitions to place ballot language would have to be in by Tuesday, May 2nd. So I think that is your next viable ballot election day. I've already told you before that the law does allow, regardless of your ordinance, for there to be a ballot initiative by a citizen or a group to put onto the ballot a question of the number of facilities that the community should have. That's the exact wording out of the statute, to name the number of facilities that should be had. It goes on also to say that there can be a ballot initiative by the citizens to prohibit all facilities. So it's a two-prong statement. It's just not a ballot initiative to get the facilities. You can also have a ballot initiative to prohibit the facilities. So I want to talk to you on a concept that can be difficult to understand under the law, and that is the concept of ballot questions that are purely advisory. And I want the community to understand this as well. We don't have a charter that allows for advisory ballot questions. An advisory ballot question is where you put something out onto the ballot that doesn't have a legal ramification based on the results of what you learn. So when you put a millage out, the millage has a ramification, because if the millage passes, the millage gets implemented, right? You can't take a question that puzzles you as a legislative body and say, well, let's test the pulse of the community and put the question on a ballot. Because there's no legal ramification when you get the answer. So, for example, if we decided, well, let's put on the ballot, should the city of Marine City enact an ordinance to allow for recreational marijuana facilities in the city of Marine City? And you put that on the ballot if the county lets it through and doesn't determine that it's an advisory ballot question. And so you get an answer. I don't know, say you get 60-40. 60% think we should enact an ordinance, 40% thinks we shouldn't. It doesn't compel an action. You don't have to do what that result says because you're still the voting body. There's nothing that compels you then to enact an ordinance. You just know now that most people would like an ordinance. You're the elected representatives of the city of Marine City. You can't get a tough question and seek advice by way of a ballot. I gave you the case law that supports this, and there's nothing that the courts in Michigan have said or that the Constitution says that all advisory ballot questions are unlawful. They're okay if your charter or your city documents allow for them. You don't have that in your charter. You don't have the right to have a advisory ballot question. So I want to make that clear that, and you can see the theory behind it. If we started putting on the ballot every question that legislative bodies were struggling with, the ballots would be full, right? I mean, you get an issue on a sidewalk, well, we're having trouble making a decision, let's put it on the ballot. You get another question on a zoning issue, we're having trouble deciding, let's put it on the ballot. It's not how it works. You guys have to make some decisions. You can't use the ballot system necessarily as an advisory board because you're not bound by what the results are, like you would be on a millage. So I want to just make sure you understand that. Also, in the memorandum that I provided to you, I again urge you to recognize the size of your community and the administrative staff. If you're going to consider an ordinance, I strongly recommend that you stay away from establishing numbers and competitive processes or timing processes. You're not set up. You don't have the staff to do that. You don't have a program in place to rank things. I would urge you, as I've urged you for a long time, if you're considering an ordinance, you need to make it turf. You need to have turf designated for these facilities in your ordinance. And if you're in the turf, you're a permitted use. All you do is go to site plan and get approval of your odor plan, your waste plan, your security plan, your lighting plan, your parking plan, and all the other rigors of going through site plan approval. But you don't have to go through any form of a rezoning or a special use permit because you would be deemed to be a permitted use if you're in that box. And that is the one form of ordinance that hasn't gone through protracted litigation such as the other ones where you were trying to pick the winners out of a large box, 400 applicants and room for 20. And who in the city, how are we set up to be the arbiters of that? It's difficult. It's very difficult. So I came to, on page 10, I came to some of my alternatives that I think are available to you. Number one was do nothing. Maintain in place the ordinance that prohibits all facilities in the city. Since 2019, there's been no citizen ballot initiative to mandate a number of facilities. The fact that there has been no citizen ballot initiative for almost 4 years speaks fairly loudly on the overall mindset of the people of the city. This alternative requires no action except to monitor the potential ballot initiative that you might face on this issue, if it were to happen. It's a status quo option. Number 2, proactively develop an ordinance with proper and adequate safeguards that allow certain recreational facilities on certain designated property in the city of Marine City. And therefore, you're ahead of the potential ballot initiative with an ordinance that you have the ability to control and the ability to design among yourselves. Number 3, proactively develop city-initiated ballot language that is crafted to not violate the advisory ballot questions. And I say to you in this memo, I find that to be a difficult challenge, how this would ever not be an advisory ballot question. So those are the alternatives that I presented to you. I know you've had lots of time to think about this and to mull it over. I can't tell you the reality of whether or not there will be a ballot initiative by the people who say there will be. I don't know the answer to that. I do know when it's due. I do know what it requires. The other alternative is to get ahead of that process and craft your own ordinance, or the other is just to do nothing at all. So anyways, those are, you have my thoughts. I've issued many writings on this, and I can answer any questions that you have right now, or you can have your own dialogue on this.
I don't have any questions, but I do have dialogue. I don't know if anybody else has questions for him, if you want to come back down here.
All right.
Okay. So, as the attorney has outlined, I think we should discuss this and really see where we all stand, because it really is doing a disservice to all of us to just keep kicking the can down the road here. You know, as somebody mentioned, delivery is already here. People can drive 15 minutes and bring it back here. You know, and they're worried about the message that we're going to send if we were to approve this to kids. I don't think it's on the government to send any message to kids. I think that message is on parents. And I think the better and the more that government can stay out of that situation, I think that's the best case scenario. This starts at home. It's up to parents to educate their kids about these dangers, whether it's edibles or, you know, little tequila shooters that may or may not look like something fun to drink, like a kindergartner brought to school a couple years ago and shared with his classmates. You know, again, it's on parents to deal with this. And it's really not a place for government. And I think if we just think about this rationally and take emotions and fear and hypotheticals out of it, and just from a reasonable and real perspective look at this, I think the positives far outweigh the possible negatives. We had the town hall. It was 50-50 as far as people that were for and against when you counted the people at the podium versus the people that submitted letters. So I think we all should think about that, you know, 50-50. Another thing we should think about, the recreational marijuana vote, with 1,022 people saying yes and 653 people saying no. That's 61% that were for recreational marijuana in the city. Now, does that mean that they were for recreational dispensaries? No. But we had to think about it. Does the voter, are they really going to separate those two things when they go to the polls? I think they're just going to look at recreational marijuana. But that's just my personal opinion. I don't really think they're going to separate that. And, you know, just being in this city since I was 10 years old and knowing pretty well the cross-section of the demographics here and being involved in the community, which we all should be, you know, we should all be in touch with our constituents and know what they want, right? Not just the people that come to this podium, not just the people that submit letters, everyone. And I have not talked to one person that is absolutely opposed to this. Myself, I have not. I'm not sure how the rest of you guys up here have, or if who have you talked to. Because I don't think, no matter what, you know, Mr. Wilkers, with all due respect, you could have 30 minutes up here, and you're not going to change the minds of the people on the other side. Just like we aren't going to change the minds of you. You're not going to change those minds. You're going to have people on opposite sides who have their viewpoints, and I don't really think there's many minds to be changed in the middle. I could be wrong on that. What else? As far as the fentanyl comments up there, and that somehow edibles are going to kill kids, I'm sorry, that's just impossible. Like, as far as what comes from a dispensary, it is absolutely tested, absolutely safe, and absolutely does not have fentanyl in it. Now, could some kid go online somewhere and get edibles? Sure. But, I mean, that's not, in my opinion, by stopping dispensaries who do offer safe alternatives, we're encouraging people to go to the internet, to go to places that are unsafe. Because regulating and making things legal and testing them is what's going to promote safety, not prohibition. Because when you have prohibition, what you have is like moonshiners and people going blind in unsafe circumstances. That's just the truth. As somebody said, there's plenty of drugs in high school. You know, Bill, I know watching some of the other meetings, it seemed like you were opposed to this.
I am. I'm working in a city that's got 3 now, and I don't care what the police departments say to other police departments, I have problems. With traffic, with them eating them, they're supposed to not eat them till they get home, they're eating them in the car, they're racing down the roads. I have a problem with it. Tell you the truth, I've never used it. I couldn't tell you what it smells like. I just think that we need to leave our ordinance the way it is.
Okay. I just bring up some of your points before that you were concerned with, you know, cash on hand and people being robbed and they can't put money in banks. And I just wanted to say that's not true, that they do put their money in credit unions now, and that money goes from their place to an armored vehicle to the credit union.
They take it somewhere and have it washed. They were taking stuff to Canada to get.
Yeah, that was a comment somebody made. I'm not sure if that was, I don't know where that came from, but I can say that these people are very good businessmen. They get their money right to the credit union. They keep very good records. They have to.
It only takes one bad apple to spoil the barrel.
Sure, absolutely. From the money standpoint, you know, it's been said, we don't need it, we don't need it, we don't need it. I had to disagree. I think we do. We have rental inspections that have been kicked down the road for years and years. Why? Because we can't afford a full-time building inspector. Not to mention the roads that aren't being fixed. This could easily be $100,000 in our pocket to hire a full-time building inspector to take care of some of this blight in the city, take care of some of these rentals that do look like crap, and take care of some of the very real concerns of the voters, because blight was huge for them. They want their neighborhoods to look nice, and I think this could help with that. Chesterfield. So Chesterfield, they were forced to, they had a ballot initiative. Citizens did the ballot initiative, and Chesterfield got caught with their pants down. And essentially, they are struggling, trying to catch up to get this to follow the law and get it on the books so they can do everything they're supposed to do to get the businesses going in the time allotted. It has been a big problem for them. So we also have to think about that, because I do not think that the gentleman that was at the podium is bluffing in the least. And just to reiterate what Mr. Davis said over there, and my conversation I had with him earlier, I think we need to just put our big boy pants on and make a decision. That's all I got.
So for me, I would like 3 pieces of information before I'm prepared to make a decision at least for myself. First, I would like Mike to look at the water supply for the area on DeGurse as well as the Kmart Plaza, even though it's probably less likely, to see if the water mains can supply an adequate amount of water for the different types of grow facilities. Go by each different type to find out if we have the small version, small size, how many can it support? If at all, I don't know. I don't know what water main is running down that street. But we need to know if the water supply would even support it. The second is I would like a letter from DTE to tell us if the power grid will support any size of grow facility, and if so, how many. And then the third is I would like our county sheriff, if he's willing to attend and provide us information on if neighboring communities, after establishing a retail outlet for marijuana, have experienced any change in their crime rates, and to give us what crime rate has changed, such as did B&Es go up, did they go down, etc. But to be somewhat specific on what category of crime did change for the positive or negative. You know, before we have those, I mean, I personally couldn't make a decision one way or another because we don't have enough facts.
Okay, so I talked with Bob Klingler, Lisa did as well, on DeGursey, about the building that he's interested in leasing to a grow operation, and it's an industrial building, right? So there's plenty of power. Like that's
No, I don't care about them. I want DTE, I want our building DPW head, building department head, and I want the county sheriff. I don't want anyone else's opinions. I want the experts' opinions.
Okay, so again, it's an industrial complex. Obviously, it's not going to have an issue supporting power when a lot of those machines use a lot more power.
How do you know?
Because I've had the conversations with Mr. Klingler.
Excellent. I want the conversation with the experts, the people that supply it, and the people that are in charge of the power grid.
Okay. Okay. Well, again, the water supply, I'm sure is fine.
An assumption.
As far as the sheriff, I mean, I've spoken with Police Chief Heslop, who's been in contact with the chief in Baltimore. Absolutely no issues with crime, none at all. Few random alarms going off. That is it.
Well, then if the sheriff comes in and says that, great.
Do we even have any dispensaries in St. Clair County?
I don't know if you could answer that.
I don't think he'd be able to answer that, but I don't want to speak for him. I have no idea if Sheriff King would even come and entertain that. I have no idea.
And I have no idea either, but I would at least like to, extend the invitation.
I mean, if you have these questions, you could have reached out and asked DTE and asked Water Supply and asked the sheriff, right? And done your own research.
And I'm asking now.
Anybody else have any other discussion as well, or Mike, you have any other points?
I have some.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Julie.
My concern is if we do nothing, that they'll bring it to the ballot and we'll be forced to accept whatever they come up with,
Whereas if we do our own, we'll have a lot more control over it. That's my issue, whether it's right or wrong, or money, or anything like that. I don't want to get blindsided and they say, well, we have to have all these grow facilities, and we have to have processing plants, and we have to have all this stuff. Whereas if we do an ordinance first, we can control it. We can control the wastewater control. They have all these things that we can put in there to control what's going to happen, instead of being blindsided like Chesterfield was. I read about that. They said, no, we're not going to do anything. The ballot went and said, now you got to do it. And you got to have all these things because that's what the people wanted in the vote. So I think we should really consider doing one so that we have the control over it before we lose control to a vote. And that's what I'd like to see.
Well, then our attorney, didn't you say that even if it got a vote they went, we didn't have to put it on if they?
No, that's if we did it.
Yeah, we
No,
do.
if we did. If they did it.
But if they do it.
We're forced to do it?
If they do it, they can ask, they can demand a number, then you do normally get some time to work it out into an ordinance.
Well, then you can make an
Force a
ordinance.
number that, they can't force a number that can't work with the setbacks. You guys, you remember we did those circle analysis to determine how much turf we actually have in the community that's even eligible, right? So they can't force something that can't be done, but let's say they got it on the ballot and it passed and they had demanded, we have four facilities. So then we would have to craft something to allow for 4 facilities. What I think you're saying is, why be bootstrapped with 4? Why don't we decide proactively?
We want 2 or 3 or 1.
Maybe you don't want to set a number, you just want to set a turf
Yeah.
on where so I think in Chesterfield, the ballot initiative was made, it got through the system as allowed by law.
Was
And
that the unlimited one?
Huh?
Was that the unlimited?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was crazy language.
Right.
And it's questionable whether that should even have gotten through, but it did.
Sure.
Okay, so I think then Chesterfield said, well, I think they took a gamble. They said, this isn't gonna pass, right? And then it passed.
Right.
And so now they're trying to craft an ordinance. And the attorneys, they've hired outside counsel too, are working with the ballot proposers to try to come up with a compromise ordinance.
But when you draft an ordinance, you can put distances in there, where they
Yes.
have to be from residential and schools.
Yes,
and other
the
stuff.
state gives you some guidance, but you're ultimately in charge of that.
And I don't believe, I used to be the building inspector here, and I don't believe you got any area that we put a number on that you can have it. That it does, on Degursey. By the footage. You have to look at your neighbor's property too. You got residential in
We
China.
wouldn't have a problem. Right? But we put it in there and it's not.
Well, but we have to worry about the south side of Degursey versus the north side, which is attached to a township. That would be the difference there.
Yeah, municipal boundaries
Yeah.
to look at.
And the other thing, I've only had one person tell me they were against it. I've had a lot of people tell me that it's mainly medical though. People really, and I'll tell you, it's not younger people, it's mostly the older people that are in favor of the medical. The issue, I'm not in favor of the grows because I know, I've heard from one person that told me that the smell, and I don't think, Bill, you can't regulate this, or you'd have to regulate all the smells and all the
Federal
other.
regulates the smell. You
Yeah.
have to have charcoal filters and everything else.
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
through it. It's a bunch of, no, never mind.
Yeah. And
It's-
so that
it's a
would
big
be a
headache.
concern, yeah, that would be a serious concern is the smells.
Wait, what do you mean? We can't write into any ordinance about smell? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we can.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you would have to do
You
something.
said something about federal, or I don't know what's.
Well, yeah, but I would, if anything, stay away from the grows because that's even
And the
more
processing.
problems than,
You gotta discharge that through a charcoal filter.
yeah,
Outside, it has clean air.
yeah.
so.
Yeah, I mean, just as far as grows, you actually do not get a revenue sharing for a grow
Yeah.
unless it's a micro business, meaning retail, selling,
Yeah.
and growing under the same roof. So if people don't want grows, we could still, you know, entertain.
And processing too, because that's another smell issue.
Or there's 3 sizes of grow that you can
Yeah.
pick from. You could just pick the smallest one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't have to pick one at all.
You don't have to pick, no, you do not. If you're gonna write your own ordinance, and that's why in this memo, I reminded you of what types of facilities you have an array to pick from. You don't have to allow all of them. You cannot prohibit transportation. Transportation is allowed under the Commerce Clause. You can't regulate the transporters. You don't have to have a grow. Quite frankly, the cleanest operations are the retails, and they're the ones that generate revenue.
Do they have grows in Oxford?
No, we allowed the smallest, but no one applied.
Do you have any municipalities that have grows?
Yes,
And what has the complaints on smell been like?
odor,
So there has been complaints?
yeah.
Okay.
But they, there is technology, it's not cheap, but there is technology to control it.
Yeah, just speaking on the particular business I toured, like I was just blown away with the technology and the money they put into it. Like they had everything thought of. Every crack in a wall was sealed with this rubber material to keep the smells in. They had deionization filters and charcoal, and so the technology to take care of the odor issue is out there if they want to spend the money to do so.
But if you're taking the straw and you're taking the oils out of them, the stems, right?
If you're, sorry, I didn't miss what the first thing you said?
When you're processing and get the oils, you have to dry this. And then if you look at the building code says now that's a hazardous area because of it dry, you got like dry grass inside with heat and everything else that you're working on. I mean, it's a big headache, these things are, when you have to go in and build them.
I mean, this has been, what, it was 2019, we're now like 3-4 years into it. I mean, in the beginning, a lot of these headaches were absolutely a problem, but I think 3-4 years in, a lot of the headaches have been taken care of.
Commissioner Ross, you had Sophie rolling on.
Yeah, thank you. So I think the first thing we really need to do actually is get it to the Planning Commission again, because my understanding of where that was left was with a few questions. I'm not sure that that's true or not, but I guess my inclination would be it needs to go back to Planning Commission to relook at setbacks, relook at where we stand, maybe even a sort of 3 proposition scenario where one is like just to the recreational law setbacks. One is to, adding places of worship or, it was done initially such that those things were added as well as residences. So I think, in my mind, a very first step is to go back to the Planning Commission, ask for that report to be done, maybe like 3 phases of setbacks. Again, just to the law, a little bit more stringent and a little bit more stringent, or cutting it down, something along these lines. But 3 levels of setbacks, bring that back to us and maybe let us look at it. Again, you said we have till May until a ballot initiative, May 2nd,
That they could,
Yeah.
May 2nd to get on August 8th election.
to get on the August ballot. So
Yeah.
at least until that time, there's no danger really, and I would be hopeful that the Planning Commission would be able to come back with something during that time. But I think that really is step 1, is understanding the where could they go, right? I mean,
Didn't we already do this? Like, he already did that, he did a presentation to the commission already.
But we got into an issue with the
Right.
townships that wasn't considered.
What is that issue?
The issue was, if you put it in a certain area and the township's property was right next door to it, and that was residential, now you've just,
Bob?
It's
from the
not
property,
necessarily
yeah.
true that you have to account for the
A neighbor?
neighboring.
okay.
Most communities do out of courtesy, but
Yeah.
there's nothing in the law that makes it absolutely clear that you have to look over the boundary and use the setbacks for what's across the boundary.
Okay.
and are you aware of any lawsuits that did
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That won, or that
There's
just
still pending.
lawsuits?
So
Okay.
a neighboring municipality sued over
Yeah, over not respecting the state setbacks.
not respecting the state setbacks. It's,
Yeah.
it's
In other words-
entirely within our
No, in other words,
decision.
if this is your box, right, and you're measuring 1,000 foot from any residential home in your box, and you pick an area that's good, but that area, if you go across a boundary into another community, you're within 1,000 feet of their residential. That's been the bone of contention, on whether or not you have to respect the boundary. There's nothing that says you have to consider things across the boundary, but people are contesting
See, I'm
that.
still confused because the state law specifically says that you can do whatever you want. Like we can craft the ordinance.
Doesn't mean
It
you
does.
can't
No, Mike, I understand what you're saying. It says, here's what we suggest, but you're free to set your own boundaries. What she's raising is that you could be totally free from everything in your community, but if you look behind you and you go across a boundary into a different community, there could be residential right there. And those people have been complaining that the same setback should apply to them.
Our setback
Should apply to.
should apply to them.
Yes. That's what I think she's raising.
From the
That doesn't
property
make a
line,
lot
not
of
from the
sense.
house.
That's like good enough for your community, but not good enough for the
Yeah,
neighboring
right.
one. I mean, actually.
They're just saying, because they're on our boundary, they want you to respect their wishes too, because they're within the 1,000 feet or whatever you make the boundary on.
Right. We don't even have to make the boundary, as long as it isn't within a residential zone,
But
that's the
that,
only
I
rule.
think we need to, I think Brian's right, we need to relook at it to see where we were at, because it's been so long
Right.
since that, and we need to address it before we do get in trouble with a ballot initiative.
And that's exactly what I had too, a list of items, that planning commission. You know, we gotta relook at that. It's been years, things have come and gone, built and not, but, I mean, we need to relook at all that and how that establishes. And right now, and that can also get us some time where we're dealing with staffing issues right now. And so we try to push forth something like this, and then we're getting by and we're doing what we can right now. That puts extra on our staffing right now as we're trying to get up, and having planning commission review this again and look at some things also gets us some time with getting our staffing in order.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
can I just ask, and perhaps we'll just go with what Brian said, give us some guidelines. I mean, we can throw darts at a map
Yeah.
forever,
Sure.
but if we're not going the same direction you're going, it goes back to get done over again, and it just wastes a lot of time. So, Brian, you suggested look at three, look at the state, look at mid-range, and look at as far as we can go, which seems a reasonable approach. I don't know what we can do about boundaries. For example, on the corner of 26 Mile and King Road, that's right across from East China. That's a good place because, as far as we're concerned, it's far enough away from any residential area, but we're right across the street from East China. So how do we?
East China residential or just East China?
It's
well,
ag.
Residential.
It's
There's China,
agricultural.
East China, you got all
That
of
one
them.
house.
It hasn't been
right
developed
at
yet, but
the
it's
dead
all,
end.
from the Bell River Road back is residential.
There's
Yeah.
that one house
So,
that sits right
you know, how do we tap into
Right.
where
that?
I think you just put it on, you give us a report that talks about that, about.
Yeah.
So I
Then we
think
can decide.
what we've seen over the years is the law itself gives you one scenario, right? It tells you 1,000 foot from any, you can't be in a residential area or 1,000, there's one regulation right in the law. What we're seeing is that other communities say, well, we don't want it to be within that distance from a church. We don't want it to be that distance from a licensed rehab facility. I mean, makes some sense, right? And then you have to further define, well, what is it from a school? What is a school? Is it a public school? Is it a building of education? So communities have grappled with all of these setbacks. But generally, you're looking at residential, schools, churches, and rehab facilities.
would you, and Jim, the maps that we used came from the county. We wrote all over them, obviously. Is there any way we can get the county to reissue those?
We can get you new maps, yes. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Poster size.
We can
The
get you new
GIS,
maps.
they were the, you worked right from the good
Yeah,
maps,
so
right?
that we have something decent to start with.
Yes.
Well, you can go to East China and get a map from them where their zoning is. They got a zoning map.
I would advise that, understand the zoning boundaries of our neighbors, at least to not apply an ordinance that would, degrade what we do internally, right? Am I making sense? At least so that if we said not right next to a residence, we're not right next to a residence of theirs.
Yeah.
At least it makes it
Yeah.
legislation proof.
And a lot of,
rather
a lot of
litigation.
people are respecting that. Some haven't, some have been challenged, but there's no law that says you have to look across the boundary and, and you just have to be concerned about your boundaries. But obviously, you don't want to, most neighboring communities don't want to do that.
You want to work with your neighboring community.
You know, you don't want to be 1,000 feet
Yeah.
from all of your residential and 20 feet from theirs.
Right. Precisely. That's
Right.
what I'm, just
Right.
be a good neighbor
Right.
type of situation.
I guess another good question would be, it makes a difference, particularly boundary-wise, if we're talking about a dispensary versus a grow operation.
Correct.
You want to, what's your thinking on that? You want to stick to dispensary, or you want to throw in grow operations too?
I mean,
A
that,
different license.
And different site plan concerns.
Yeah.
Excuse me for a moment now. I'm new with this. This is the first commission meeting I've visited in about 10 years. Is this a question and answering from the people at large, or is this a community special? or-
No, he's the head of our planning
the
commission.
Planning
Yeah.
commission.
Yeah.
So he,
Yeah.
As
This-
a depart-
This is
or
a part
as-
where the
Yeah.
commissioners
he's
are
being
just.
asked.
Yeah.
But good
deliberating.
question.
Yeah.
I
Thank you
understand.
for clarifying, people who didn't know that. Thank you.
So what,
I would definitely leave the grows out
Yeah,
just stick with the dispensaries.
and at least look at that and see what you come up
Sure
with.
makes it easier to map that way.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, Bob, you can't like have different boundaries for different licenses, right? Yeah.
No, but
Yeah,
I
that's-
think, just for your community, the wisdom would be probably retail and micro.
Well, Michael's a grow.
It's a small
Yeah,
group.
It is a very small.
Yeah,
grow.
but we don't have to.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
You could just allow retail, and then you don't have grow, cultivation, or any of that in your community at all.
Yeah, I'm just still struggling. I understand the neighboring thing. I understand the staffing issue. But I don't understand the whole setback conversation again. This was already done in 2019, and this is why government just moves so damn
Well,
slow.
But again, it was done, but then we didn't consider our neighbors. That was what the issue was at the end. And we
So
didn't
let's
finish
address
that
Why?
conversation.
I mean, we're like asking Joe to come up with setbacks, and then he's asking us to come up with setbacks. Like, what are we doing here?
Well,
Well, as a community, you have the right to decide what you want setbacks from.
yeah.
Do you want to respect the distance from a church? Do you
So
want
let's make that decision. Why do we have to kick it to Joe and then
You
Joe
want
kicks it back to
well,
us? I mean,
so he can implement it.
we have to make the
Do
decision.
you want to respect the distance from a school?
Like the planning commission has
Do you
no
want to
power to
respect
even
the
make a
distance
decision.
from an education facility? Do you want to respect
waste
the?
of time.
So we have to give the setbacks to Joe, and then he's got to look at the maps to see what applies.
You already did that.
or we decide to stay with the 2019 ordinance and let it try to do it.
But again, we did that, but we didn't consider the neighboring communities.
Okay, so call the neighboring communities and stick with the setbacks that he came up with. I just still struggle. I mean, it's fine. It's going to go to the planning commission. I'm still struggling to understand why Joe has to do the same thing he already did. Get the maps, draw the lines. He already did all this. He already did it. 500 feet, they're drawn on the map,
But how do
everything
you
to
know
Gersie.
in 5 years, there's not a church there, or there's not a school there, or there's not a residence in those boundaries. It's
What?
what, 2019? So 4 years ago.
4 years ago, did,
4 years can change a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So we really should look at it.
And we-
Somebody could have built a house in those boundaries.
Yeah.
Somebody could have built a church, or they've moved churches to different places they weren't there before.
Yeah.
Like the one on King Road. It wasn't a church before,
Yeah.
right? Or the one over there on, on King
Oh,
Two,
there's
by
two
the
of 'em.
26. It was something else before.
There's a KFC hall, yeah.
Yeah, the KCL and the Harvest, is the Harvest?
Yeah, a lot of them have moved around.
Moved
to different
around.
Spots.
So, don't we have to consider that,
We do. We
right?
have to take it on consideration.
So the last one that I worked on, I did 500 feet from the nearest, obviously the state requirements, and then in addition, we did 500 feet from the nearest lot line of any child care center, any licensed daycare facility, 500 feet from the nearest, from any preschool center, primary school, intermediate school, secondary school, or any educational facility. So that was our list.
Well, so let me ask you a question. When we're just talking educational facilities, like we have a trucking school out there. I know that's different,
Yeah, but it's
it's
probably-
an educational school.
Right.
Are we including that? Yeah.
What's the state minimum?
It's hang on, it says 1,000 feet,
1,000 feet?
right.
Because that's what we went with across the board.
And what is the 500?
Residents, churches, schools.
no, you definitely didn't do it residences. It was, from houses, it was definitely 500 feet, without it. Yes, I just watched those
Was it
meetings,
1,000
Joe.
or 500?
It was definitely 500 feet.
Why don't we,
I think we need to pull it out.
yeah, we need to pull it out and take a look at it.
Right.
It's just been too long.
So, Jim, if you can get us those maps,
I was just about to ask you if you knew where they were. Because I don't think we'll have any idea where those maps would be.
The old
I got
ones?
From,
You're asking for the old maps. He's asking for
Get
the
us the
latest
new maps.
from,
The new maps.
Right.
I'll get you the new maps, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
right.
Do you know where the old maps are
I
at?
have the old maps.
Okay, could we get those, so we can look at those?
Yes.
Beautiful.
You want them by next meeting, or we want to do something before then, or?
Probably
Bring 'em-
before then.
Bring them into the office.
Yeah, but just bring them in the office, just give me a call.
And can you resend us what we put out originally, just so that we can all re-review that too?
Again,
And Brian, when you were talking about the setbacks, are you talking about the 500 or 1,000? So should we do both?
Well,
So
again,
we
I'd
know?
recommend, at least looking at just the minimums that
Yeah, okay.
it's a long acronym, but MTMRA or something along those lines. The recreational marijuana law, the ones that those
Okay, but what
say,
is the minimum? That's what I'm
I will get it,
Right,
I will get it
that's-
to you.
Okay.
that's in the law.
And then,
That's like step one, and then, look at the additions, right? The places of learning, I mean, maybe to address your concern, we could say with the exception of trade schools or something like this, or someplace that. Adult trade schools, yeah, I mean, there again, though, you could have somebody 18, I mean, it gets into
Yeah.
fine lines, but, increase it to educational facilities and some setback, I mean, and then a third that's either less restrictive than, I would say probably more restrictive than that. So 3 levels, just barely to the bare minimum the law prescribes, adding schools, educational facilities. What else was there in that?
Rehab,
Churches,
churches,
yeah, places of
rehab.
worship, for sure.
do you have any rehab centers?
Yeah, on Diggers.
Well, community mental health, which,
Oh, well, all right,
And
but that's
that's-
in the middle of a residential area.
Yeah, so.
and it's changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's changing to King Road, I think.
So,
Yeah, they're moving out to King. I believe they're moving out to King Road at the old Unity bus,
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
really?
right there.
Yeah.
I think that they're moving out there.
It's confirmed they are moving out there, yes.
just to be clear, it says, the state law says 1,000 feet from a child care center and not in a residential zone unless we pass an ordinance otherwise.
That's
So
correct. You're
there-
allowed to go down to you can go down to 500.
You can go down to 300. That's what New Baltimore did. So there really isn't a minimum. It's just whatever we decide.
They say it has to be reasonable. That's all.
But I think everybody's, the whole point of all this is to be prepared in the event you get a referendum.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to be prepared, one way or another. So it doesn't hurt to review all of it
But
again.
if somebody gets it on the ballot and wins, we still have time to do an ordinance.
We
Right.
can't have so many choices, though.
You
We got all
would
the
have
choices
time
we
to
have
do an
in- we
ordinance,
have in the
but
beginning.
you would have to try to make your ordinance accommodate the number.
Right, so if they voted for 10, we would have to install 10.
And I think,
Yeah.
I think that was the problem, Chesterfield, for however it happened, it got on the ballot as unlimited,
Yeah.
Right.
So we
So
don't
any
want that.
type of facility.
unlimited.
Unlimited.
And we
Yeah.
don't want,
We
you know,
don't
you want to be
unlimited.
prepared so that you don't have that here. in the
Again, though,
event-
what I oh, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
What I understood from you, Bob, was that unlimited, they probably could have challenged, and,
They could have.
yeah,
There's
then
some
we-
looking back going on.
sure, hindsight.
But that's more legal fees, more time, more,
Sure.
And what, the other thing we've done is we've limited it by area, so this particular one that I attached for you said, all these setbacks apply, but the property itself has to be zoned industrial.
Yeah, I think New Baltimore actually did like a special district.
They did a district.
Yeah.
They created it.
Yeah.
So some people have done, industrial, light industrial, so you keep it in a box. And it doesn't get forced upon you to spread throughout the community. You have an isolated area where even after you apply the setbacks, it still has to be in the I-1 zoning.
But if we don't have something prepared and we don't have this all figured out, that we only want a certain type of thing, and they go with a referendum for everything, that's why you want to be prepared so that you could, if you had to, you could push it through.
You don't want to be trying to enact an ordinance to
While they're
accommodate
doing
the
it.
will
Yeah.
of a ballot initiative.
Yeah.
But if that ballot initiative wasn't something that could
If it-
fit in our city,
You
we
don't-
didn't have to
you
abide by
can't be
it.
compelled to do what you can't do.
So if they
Okay.
did that, but it had to be a special industrial, we
Right.
didn't have anything that fit.
You would have to demonstrate,
then we
Mayor,
didn't
that
have to
you've
do it.
made every attempt possible to accommodate that ballot initiative. And that can be challenging. I mean, that can be challenging because you'd likely end up in litigation if you tried to concoct an ordinance around what the ballot, to get around what the ballot initiative otherwise said.
Just a closing comment for me. The only reason that I'm trying to put some expedience on this is September 30th is the deadline for us to be giving out licenses and still get the revenue sharing. So,
For the next round.
yeah, for the next round. So if we don't get this in by September 30th, then we don't get 100 grand or whatever it is next March.
So what's that for? That would need to be, we'd need to approve a license by that time, right? Yeah.
But we don't even have
I don't know that
anybody.
that's,
yeah.
We
I
don't
don't
even
know
have
if that's
anybody that's
feasible for this
approached
year
the city.
period.
I'm just putting it out there. I'm not saying it's
No,
probable, I'm just putting it out there.
It's good to know. Facts are good to know. I don't think that should influence.
Well, they're getting so many out there right now, they're fighting with each other. They're closing up. They're putting so many in these Warren, Sterling, all around Utica, and all around, that they're fighting each other and they're not making any money now, and they finally starting to close up.
Yeah. We still need to protect ourselves, though. That's all I'm saying. We need to.
Yeah, I would stay just the way we are. But
so would we require a motion to request that the planning commission endeavor on a three-tiered look at setbacks?
At available property within the city that could potentially accommodate a facility.
Okay.
And can we attach, somebody reach out to the neighboring communities and see what they're thinking, or? I mean,
That is a good, most
Well, let's-
neighboring
let-
communities have
Let's
their.
see if there are any impacts. I mean,
Yeah, won't it show on the map?
It'll
the
show on
same
the
as
map.
us? Yeah.
Yeah, because you'll know what their zoning is that's
I can get
attached
you
to ours.
Carterville's zoning map, I can get you
Yeah.
East China's zoning map.
Yeah.
I'll just go.
So yeah, I'd propose that we a motion to kick to the planning commission 3 tiers of setbacks, 1 at the law, and 2 more levels of, additional scrutiny, including other areas, houses of worship, et cetera. And then to also include, or consider anyway, zoning of our neighboring communities, to ensure that at the least we would be, whatever would be considered within our own community, we would honor that same type of zoning within theirs.
That sound good? I'll support that, yeah.
Okay, I have a motion and support. Any other further discussion?
Yeah, I want to know when he's talking about the allowable setback, is that going to be 1,000 feet?
We're going to ask for 3, so they do 3 different proposals. 1 at just what the law says,
And what's the law
which is
say?
1,000 feet and 500 feet, I thought?
1,000 feet.
1,000, just
1,000.
1,000
It's
feet.
1,000 for the daycare, and residential, it just says can't be within residential. So churches, daycares, 1,000 feet, residential just can't be within. There is no setback requirement for residential.
But you can make your own, because the one
Right.
township
Yes.
I'm in,
Correct.
they got 300 feet from any residential property line. So,
Yes.
So yeah, one proposal would be not that, admittedly,
right.
but then proposals 2 and 3, what my motion requested was that he increase it for residences and other things, and then make a third that's even more restrictive.
What are those?
I know what you say they are.
If the law is already 1,000 feet in some instances, why don't we just make it 1,000 feet across the board? And that way,
Because that'll take out all diversity.
That's what I said in the beginning.
well,
I'm just saying that's, and it'll take out Kmart Plaza too, so we might as well just fix the whole thing.
In 19?
actually it didn't, but that's.
No, because you did 500 feet. If you do 1,000, I just watched the presentation, Joe.
Can we do 500 and 1,000 and then go from there?
Yeah, I'm willing to do, we're willing to do anything, I just kind of want to get
You asked-
clarification.
Brian, you asked for 3, so do you want 1,000, 500, and then something less than that? What did you want?
I mean,
1,000, 600, 300? I don't know.
I mean, 300 is what New Baltimore did.
so that's saying less than the law, in other words.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
you said 3 things. What do you, what?
No, I wanted the law, which I thought it excludes, you could be right adjacent to residence.
Yeah.
That's kind of my problem. I think that we should look at some
you-
distance from a residence, 300 feet, 500 feet,
Yeah,
but
well,
something
that's-
that's more strict than the law.
So that would be the second one, right?
Correct.
So you could have 1,000,
So
And
that's
then
what
a
he needs to
third.
know. What's the second one?
500
Okay.
and
So-
300?
So why don't we just make it easy?
Yeah.
Do the 1,000
Oh.
and go in 250 increments. Do 750, show us what it looks at 500, and show us what it looks like at 250.
How's that?
Well, okay, but I would want to add,
Adding things in.
Residents, yes.
I understand that. First one would be just what the law says.
Right.
And then we
It'd
would
be right
add,
next door to
and then
your
we could
house.
add in these other things on the other ones.
correct. That's what I was intending by saying that.
Okay, you said the number, that's why I wanted the number if you're doing a motion.
Okay, I mean, and if we need the exact study that, I mean, that leaves nothing up to the recommendation of the planning commission, but that's fine. We could add, 250 feet from residences as a start, and then the second one being 500 feet from residences.
I mean, the point here is to see what turf is available.
Right,
Right.
Correct.
exactly.
After you apply
Apply
the
the
setback.
difference. Yeah.
And I guess I would let it up to the planning commission to, if they find that all of a sudden nothing is available, then, back it off to see what would be required to make something available at, say, the corners. That's why I wasn't trying to be overly restrictive prescribing exact setbacks.
Were you on the commission when we did that?
I was when we were drawing radii and things like that, but
Yeah.
It gets a little hairy when you gotta go from this corner to that.
Sure.
corner to- So, all right, it's gonna look weird.
that's
That's
okay.
okay.
But the residential, that's extremely important that we do that.
Yeah.
We do that because New Baltimore and that little industrial area, I went out there and I talked to the council people in New Baltimore and got information. 3,000 cars a week
Yeah.
with those dispensaries. And we've got to be respectful to our neighboring communities, to our residences, the other businesses too. That was just chaos. driving in and around those parking lots and down those streets. So we really gotta be respectful of all that.
Okay. Do you still support with the kind of amendments that we made?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
500,000.
So,
Jason, do you require a recap of the amendments that we made?
If you could please simplify it, that would be
Yeah.
preferable, yes.
We'll help you, Jason, on this one.
Okay.
So I think it's just a voice.
we
vote.
won't ask you to read it back.
Okay. All right.
Good, because I got 3 setbacks, that's what I got.
So what was it? It was 250, 500, and 750, or 1,000?
1,000.
So 250, 500, and 1,000.
So,
Or is it?
1,000.
So we're gonna have 4.
Yeah, 4.
Four, not 3.
Four.
4.
Four setbacks.
752?
Okay.
1,000,
Again, I think at some point it's
500,
gonna
and
delete
You might find that
everything, so-
750 is reasonable.
So,
All right, so we just need a voice.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carries. Moving on now to new business, 10A, proposed contract for interim city clerk Jason Bell. And can I have a motion to approve the contract for interim city clerk Jason Bell?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Support.
Okay, motion and support, any discussion? Okay. No discussion, roll call vote? Oh.
Bob, this was again vetted by you?
Yes.
Okay,
Altered, changed.
good deal.
My assistant, Jim, did a pretty good job on the first draft.
Sure. Swap out a name.
Law school assistant.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Clausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Rohrig,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Mayor Vandebosch,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Hilfrank.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 10B, traffic control order P 23001.
So, I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, go ahead. Recently, we have had a uptick in accidents, crashes right there on that street on Jefferson, right at Water. If you are on the north portion of Jefferson, those parking spots are north and south. And when people are backing out of those parking spots, they are backing into cars that are parked on the south side of Jefferson between the driveway and Water Street. I've said we've had probably 6 to 8 of them, if not maybe a little more. So drafting this traffic control order up will eliminate parking on the south side of Jefferson from the driveway to the corner of Jefferson and Water Street. I hate taking away parking spots, but it has to happen because we are getting a lot of crashes in that area.
How many parking spots?
3, maybe 4,
All right.
yeah.
So not.
I mean, it's not a ton, but
yeah.
we could take a different avenue and have the superintendent Ittrich look at it. If they would have put angled parking in there instead of the straight in, probably would have eliminated this, but until that can happen, I think this needs to happen so we can stop some of those
Figure it out.
crashes.
Yeah, okay.
So can these be revisited in a year, or?
Absolutely.
Okay,
They're permanent for now. We can always rescind them at any time.
Anytime.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I would make a motion to do it if we can revisit it in a year.
I'll
Whatever.
support.
Okay, motion and support with the addition to revisit in a year. Any additional
So in
discussion?
the, March 2024, a March 2024 meeting. Still support with that.
Support, yes,
caveat.
so.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Rohrig,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Mayor Vandebosch,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick,
Yep.
Commissioner Hilfrank,
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, 10C, we have the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund Provider Participation Agreement. It is the annual agreement that we enter into. It was added onto the agenda because Interim City Clerk Bell had to already do an amendment on the financial business. It was brought to our attention through our deputy clerk that we needed to renew this, and that we already had residents that had applied for this assistance and had to wait until we got it approved to get that assistance that they needed. So we went ahead and put that on for tonight so that they could go ahead and start getting their assistance.
It's a good program.
And so with that, can I get a motion to approve the MIAHF provider participation agreement?
I make a motion that we approve the MIHAF provider
Support.
assistance fund agreement as presented.
Motion and support. Any further discussion?
Is this something we could have as a link on our website, just for those who are potentially in need?
We can certainly look at that, yes. Yep.
That's a good idea.
Should be similar to where we did the water.
Relief.
Correct.
The forgiveness issues, yeah.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Russ,
Yes.
Mayor Vandembosch,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Hillfrank,
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Rourke.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. And we have no items that were removed from the consent agenda, so on to item 12 for city manager report.
So last meeting, I said Mary Ellen was coming back and starting. Her and Nicole have been working diligently in the office. This is how backed up everything was. Mary Ellen finally just got July of 2022 bank reconciliations done to give us a starting point for this upcoming budget. So Mary Ellen and I are actually meeting tomorrow to finalize a lot of the numbers and really start hitting this budget process quite hard now that we have a starting point. Attended the CED board. We had our city manager search committee board. Was that last week, Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Yep. Finalized a few things. We're meeting again tentatively at March 8th. Adding to that, Scott Atkins started. He came in for one day. Had a lengthy conversation with him. The city is very deficient in a lot of job descriptions. He cleaned up the DPW superintendent job description. He cleaned up the city clerk job description. Both of those have been posted to the MML website, our city website. I believe Michelle put those on Facebook as well. I will be happy to say I've received applications for both positions within a day. So we're chugging forward. We were also trying to clean up language for the city manager search committee in the way of a city manager. There was no city manager job description at all that we could find anywhere. So I've got Scott working on that as well. He has taken a 1-week vacation already down to Florida, and we're a little jealous because he sent a very nice photo of the warm weather he's having down there at the spring training game of the Tiger game. So he is still working as he's down there. He's working on the city manager job description so we can get that posted to the MML along with the ICMA, which is the International City Managers Association. I learned something, Lisa, thank you. So all that was done. I have been working with the DNR in the way of the $272,000 reimbursement to the city. It was discovered that the grant was kind of stuck in limbo. Through some cleanup to the website, we had removed a few people from several years ago off of our initial process. I finally got access to even mess with the grant when we had approached the DNR, and they finally got back to us. They said that the legal description for the property that the city acquired was wrong, which no fault of the city's, but that was on Six Rivers because they're the one that drafted this grant up. So I provided a different legal description to Six Rivers to provide to the DNR. That wasn't good enough. This was yesterday. I worked with Wendy, our assessor, on that, and now it was kicked back again today. He said it wasn't good enough. So now I have to wait another week, next week, to meet with Wendy again to figure out what actual language then he is looking for on the south parcel of the vacant land. So that's where that grant is at. Once that gets all cleaned up and done, resubmitted, we should be okay. Worked on the transition of Jason Bell into the interim city clerk position. Worked with Bob Davis on the contract. I cannot take any credit for that. I tried, and it was chewed up. I was like a third grader trying to write a research paper and all the red pen that he put on there, but we tried. Anyway, successful. Search committee meeting talked about, attended the marijuana town hall. I had some questions. I had a couple people come to me, and I know we discussed this last night at the CED board. The vacant building ordinance, and how it is written that we are collecting funds for buildings that are vacant. And there's a couple exceptions in our ordinance that allows for, to sign off and waive those fees. But one of the people that have come to me said, I am not paying my fees because your building at 300 Broadway sits vacant as well, and you're in violation of your own ordinance. So I talked to the CED board about it. I did some research. I'm actually having the city attorney, I sent him an email today to have him look into this as well. The language is not clear. I know there's work inside of City Hall at 300 Broadway, but there's no specific end date listed in which our ordinance requires. So we're violating our own ordinance. My opinion, I know the CED board, we talked about it last night, but I have the city attorney looking into this. This might be something we need to revisit maybe in next meeting. People are not paying it. Several people are paying it. I will have those numbers for you at the next meeting to find out who's paying it, who's not, et cetera. Also looking into the business license ordinance, because that's also confusing. My opinion, reading it, it doesn't cover nonprofits, meaning churches. It doesn't cover the fire authority. It wouldn't cover the police department. It's so vague right now, and we're sending business ordinance or business licenses to churches and so on and so forth, and they're nonprofits. I don't think we should be doing that, so that has also been deferred to the city attorney to look into to see what we can do about fixing that as well. Continue negotiations with the POAM. Should have hopefully in a month, April-ish, maybe next meeting, I don't know, somewhat of a contract through the POAM and the Teamsters to bring to you guys in a closed session to talk about. And then the last one is I met with the Ascend Group, who is our health insurance premium providers, and the only bad thing out of that one is our insurance prices are going up. So,
Everybody.
yep, they have a forecasting program they're gonna try to provide to me by next week, so we can get that entered into the budget and prepare for that as well. And that is all I have, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. On to third.
Hold on.
Oh.
I should have a couple of questions or
Questions
comments.
for the city manager.
I guess you'd mentioned you wanted to revisit the vacant building and also the business license.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I mean, if I could get a second, then yeah, let's do that in the next agenda. Revisit both of those things and look at them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to reiterate again, absolutely willing to help with anything. You guys need anything, please reach out. And I hope, again, everybody on this board to do the same, because I do know there is some staffing shortages, and I understand that and want to help. So let us know.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have one thing. I know at the last meeting, we voted to table the effort to digitize all of our blueprints and drawings. I'd like to ask that we add that onto our agenda to look at if we want to take that back up. And the reason being is I was made aware after the fact that this may impact our first responders too. It's kind of a joint effort, I think, between chief, you, and our building official. So if this impacts our first responders, we shouldn't be waiting until we get a new building official. We need to take care of it soon.
This is actually a city manager.
So,
Didn't they have to come?
or, sorry, city manager.
That motion was to set aside not to table.
Yeah.
Well, we can pick
I
it
think
back up.
I think they set it aside
We
until there
did.
was a new city manager.
Yeah.
but
Yeah, unless the motion is
You can vote
revisited.
you can vote to revisit.
One of the things I also found out, Jacob, is we probably do not have enough storage capacity at all for this. I did find out. So that's going to be a serious issue, trying to pull all that in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just, we need to really dig into it instead of just waiting. Not, I don't want to argue for or against right now. It's not on the agenda, but I think at our next meeting it should be.
I can make sure it gets on your agenda if so needed.
Thank you.
You just want it for discussion purposes, then?
For discussion, maybe take action, maybe not, depends on what the board wants to do.
I'll make sure Tracy's there then.
Thank you.
Chief, will you be here? Okay.
Now, Bob, does that violate Bill's motion?
That motion was to set aside till we got a city manager.
So, I mean, if you vote to put it on for discussion at the next agenda, I mean, that would be contrary to Bill's motion, but you could do a motion to reconsider Bill's motion first.
Yeah, that
Is
would
that
do it.
now? Is that germane?
You'd have to do it this meeting.
But it wasn't on the agenda.
Yeah, it's not germane.
Well, I take it you guys just don't want to revisit this right now, so.
Well, hey, I'm just trying to follow the law, you know?
Are you? Are you?
Well, yeah, you should.
I would revisit it, that's just my opinion.
I'm just saying.
If it
no,
can
it's-
help our first
Then you do a
responders.
motion to reconsider. That,
But we didn't have that on the agenda, is all I'm saying. I mean, I don't have a problem, but again, it's not on the agenda, and we've gotten,
I mean, if we're not going to follow Robert's rules or, I mean. it's
I've
important.
never seen an agenda item called motion to reconsider. So I'm just telling you, motions to reconsider are raised for prior actions at a prior meeting where somebody wants to revisit that issue. Once there's a motion to reconsider made, all you discuss is the motion to reconsider. You don't discuss the substance. If you vote to reconsider, then you can ask to have it on the next agenda. The motion would have to be brought by somebody who voted in favor of Bill's motion. There's the law.
According to the minutes, we all voted in favor.
I did not.
I did.
I think the minutes are,
No,
I think when I looked at it earlier.
It was everybody.
I think it was unanimous.
It was unanimous. Yes, sir.
So anyone could bring a motion to reconsider it.
Really?
I didn't recall it being unanimous.
No, neither did I.
it was,
It was not, 'cause
Yeah.
I voted no.
Yeah, somebody,
Is it unanimous?
That's what the minutes say.
The minutes say unanimous.
yeah, I don't think that's true. I know that's not true, actually.
yeah, I don't think
Page
that's
5.
true.
According to this, it was a roll call vote, and everybody was yes. I was going by the sheets that were in the folder that were given to me.
I guess we'd have to
Oh.
go back and look at the video. That's
Yeah,
the only
that-
way you're
Yeah,
gonna.
because we
That was
changed
Tracy and I. We had a lot of chaos going on that.
If you
Very
remember,
well
that
could have been
that
rough.
was when the clerk left.
That was
Yeah,
no
but I
s-
think you're
that was
correct.
no
I think
slight
you,
to
you guys voted
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
I did not vote yes.
Pretty sure Brian and Jacob voted no.
Yes.
I believe I
that's
did
correct.
as well.
So we would need somebody who voted for it to ask to reconsider.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? Okay, on to 13, Commissioner Privilege and Liaison Reports. And Commissioner Clausen?
I haven't been to a planning commission meeting lately, so, or we haven't had one. So, I don't have any report there, it's just, we've got another storm coming in, so everybody, drive careful and watch what you're doing.
Commissioner Bryson?
I have one here. So I'm going to read a post that Mr. Hilfrink put up on his Facebook page. The town hall is worth watching. Come for the facts. Stay for the Vietnam vet telling the Dare folks to kiss his, you can probably take a guess, LOL. I have a couple problems with that statement. The first problem I have is, since you've been elected, you've been saying we need to heal the community, we need to come together. That is not doing that. And I'm sorry, the hypocrisy is getting pretty deep here. This is a statement using an emotional statement to trigger an emotional response. You very publicly stated that you have no problem using divisive politics to further a political agenda. This is not bringing a community together. This is pouring gasoline on a fire. So, my second problem with this, and it's even a bigger one as far as I'm concerned, in having or holding a town hall, we solicited for members of the community to provide us with their opinions. Not to say we have to agree with them, but we should definitely consider them. Within 24 hours of us asking for everyone's opinion, half of those people were denigrated and belittled on social media by the member of this commission. That is wrong. One of the most common fears that our society has is speaking in public. We hear it all the time. This isn't something I normally do. I get nervous up at the podium. In running people down who gave a contrary opinion to what you want, are you encouraging them the next time you have a town hall or a public comment to speak their minds, knowing you might trash them on Facebook after? Or are you building up barriers that might prevent someone who's on the fence from coming up to that podium and speaking their mind? It's time to stop acting like an internet troll and time to start acting like the professional that you were elected to be. So as far as, the divisive comments that you continue to make, I agree. Our community does have to relax and heal. But the only words I'll say is you first. So with that, I'm done.
So first of all, that was never intended as any sort of insult. It was simply an observation of what happened at the meeting in order to get people excited and engaged in what's happening in their community. It was simply to get people to actually watch the town hall on YouTube. And I'll absolutely apologize to all the Dare folks if I offended them. I am absolutely sorry for that. That was not my intention. It was simply, honestly, it was just, again, to get people's attention and get them to be engaged with their meeting. But it's a slippery slope when people start trying to limit what another person is saying. The First Amendment is very important. And we got to be careful at trying to censor people because, again, that First Amendment is a slippery slope when we start doing that. And I'm going to enjoy my free speech as much as I can. Thank you.
Mr. Ross.
Okay. Firstly, congratulations to the men's and one woman swim team. They won their swim meet for the Blue Water area, and it was awesome. Or Mac Blue, I should say, Mac Blue. It was awesome. I was there, and all the credit in the world to those amazing men and women. To the coaching as well, fantastic job, and it was really a sight to see. I recently attended an MEDC webinar on a placemaking grant that I think would be an ideal thing for 300 Broadway to consider. It's required in this grant that the property be city-owned, municipally owned. I asked a bunch of questions, got a lot of feedback. We are going to be able to get the video from that session, and this is a grant for up to, well, it needs to range between $750,000 and $2 million. And anyway, I think if we make a concerted effort, we could conceivably be a candidate for that. That, of course, would need to come before the commission. It's only a 10% matching, and again, really an exciting thing, and it's specifically for placemaking, making a municipal area or building more accessible to the community, and increasing seasonality. So things for people to do indoors during the winter and things like this, that's what they're looking at, and that's what I think would make that an ideal candidate. In relation to, Jim, what you had said about the building not being used, it actually is used by, several organizations. I do realize that Teen Zone recently, stopped their lease, but it is used by Friends of City Hall, and at least Friends of City Hall. So, I mean, it is a utilized building that serves a municipal purpose in some way, shape, or form, and the park around it is also utilized. So, just a question, and no criticism there. So anyway, very excited about that, and again, if anybody has any input, I know Friends of City Hall and all the members of the 300 Broadway Committee are working towards, putting something together that would be eligible for such a thing, and I think the due date is April 28th. So that hopefully will come before the commission again. The last thing I'll say is, again, I don't know why it's every 2 weeks, but I got a notification on my phone that Snowmageddon is coming again tomorrow. So please, everybody, be warm, drive safe, and, be safe out there. And again, if there's any problems or things that you notice in the city, I received a call from a neighbor regarding some power lines, and I'm so happy I was able to help. They actually helped me more because they were the ones who called AT&T to have them address them. But yeah, help each other out during these this weather, and that is all. Thanks. Have a great week.
Commissioner Rory?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to thank Jason for stepping in and being the new interim clerk. Seems to be doing a good job, great minutes. And be careful out there. Like you said, it's not going to be a good day tomorrow for driving around, so please be safe. Thank you.
Commissioner Hendrick?
I'm going to pass tonight. Don't say.
All right, so I have a few things written down. I attended the State of the County presentation this week. It was a really great presentation. I'm not sure if they're going to actually broadcast it up for people to view, but if you get a chance to watch it, they reviewed their budgets, funding, different aspects of various departments, and as well as some projects going on. Also attended the MEDC webinar for the CDBG Public Gathering Spaces Initiative. It was very informative, and it was very encouraging to see that some of the ideas of some things that we've got going on would actually not only meet their standard criteria, but they actually have new categories for extra points in scoring. And I think we would hit all those marks as well. So that was very encouraging to see. And like Commissioner Ross had said, they're out for $750,000 to $2 million awards at a time. And there was actually one category that only 2 cities, I believe, in our area hit. It was Yale and us.
Right.
So that really brought us into that scope even more. I want to thank Anne Marie for her service to the city. We do have a lot of exciting and positive projects happening in the city, so everyone just know that. I wish good luck to the Marine City Mariner powerlifting team. They have their state finals meet this week in Adrian, this weekend. We have boys and girls competing in powerlifting this weekend for states. Congratulations to the MC swim team as well on their MAC Blue Championship. And I seen that the Mariner Drama won 3rd place at states for their production of The Boys Next Door. Congratulations to them for that. Monday night is the Tom Philo Wild Game Dinner at the Lions Club.
And some exciting I've seen through the school newsletter is the Blue Water Building Trades Fair is happening on April 19th. And it's at Good County Park from 8:30 to 1:30. It's a hands-on career exploration geared towards high school students in 9th and 12th grades. They're going to have more than 20 skilled trades represented at the event. So students will be introduced to those skilled trades and careers in infrastructure, electrical and heavy equipment construction. There is advanced registration required, but as far as I know, they should have the flyers out at the schools and can get the kids interested in going to that. I wanted to thank everyone who's taken their time and share their thoughts and perspectives on the marijuana dispensary discussions. Again, like everyone else, careful tomorrow for the winter storm. The Maritime Days, the new group that's kind of blending in with anybody who stayed from the old group, are having a planning, volunteering, and helping meeting on this coming up Thursday, March 9th at 7 o'clock at GARS for anybody interested in wanting to help get involved with the Maritime Days. They're meeting there. I talked to Tammy, and she's got a lot of positive, 18 people she's got responding to now that may be coming to that and given their information. And also, I'd like to thank the Planning Commission for taking on what we talked about tonight with those mappings and that. I know. So thank you for helping us in those extra efforts
Thanks, Joe.
as well. Okay, and that is all I have. So now, can I get a motion to enter into a closed session?
I make a motion that we enter into closed session under 15.268.
We got 30 seconds.
Support.
Can I quote?
Okay.
Will you let me?
Motion and support, any discussion?
Who was the support, Madam Mayor?
Support.
Thank you.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
I'll turn to you when I want you to.
Mayor Van Bosch.
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson.
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick.
Yep.
Commissioner Hilfrank.
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner Rohrig.
Yes.
Commissioner Ross.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right.